Welcome to the Orange is a New Black podcast. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. I'm joined by my co-host, Zim Houday. Zim, say what's up.
What's up, man? How y'all doing today? It's a Houday weekend. We're going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Squealers week.
Squealers. How you feeling today, Ace? What you been up to?
Man, it's been a lot personally, but I'm feeling good, man. It's the start or the end of a great week. It's always not too bad when it's a Friday. Sorry, guys, I had some personal things that I had to handle in the middle of the week. Lost relative, but we're gonna keep the spirits high, and we're heading into Steelers week. And for me, I'm feeling good, bro. I'm feeling good. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. Let me start off by asking you one question. Do you want to win?
Man, that's a very
That's what the people want to know. Are we in tank mode, or are we going against our arch rivals and we can ruin their playoff hopes? What is it, 5-5? We can pretty much, I wouldn't say put the nail in the coffin, but we can get them very, very close to the end.
Man, I'm going.
And they don't have
say,
a first-round draft pick.
They don't have a first-round draft pick. We can basically, I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter, but if you do, you probably already know the answer to this question. So one thing that I posted was like me when the Steelers expect for us to show them mercy when they come in wounded next week, and it's like Mufasa throwing Scar throwing Mufasa off the cliff or whatever. So I think this is one of the few games. This is probably the only game. Yeah, this is the only game. Let me make that clear. This is the only game that I want to win.
Okay.
Like, if I had to win a game, I think within this last stretch of games, this would be the only one. Now, I don't know if that means that we tie with the Redskins for the very first pick.
I was told that the Redskins have the tiebreaker on us, so I'm very scared about that.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Redskins own the tiebreaker, and looking at their schedule, I don't really see them winning but maybe one game. The same week that we play the Dolphins, I think they play the Giants, and that's a very big week.
Gotcha. Yeah,
So you're pro Bengals Sunday, cheering for the Bengals to win, correct?
I'd cheer for them to win. Like, I wouldn't mind if they lost it, but like if there was a game, I guess it's a win-win for me. Like either way it goes, it's a win-win for me. I want them to win this game if they can. If they don't, then it's no pressure there. But looking at this Redskins schedule, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I want them to win.
I'm scared of them because they don't necessarily say Haskins does pretty good, right, or decent enough. They don't have to go early on a quarterback, and the Dolphins will be sitting there with the ammunition to trade up. I'm not really worried about them as much drafting a quarterback. I'm more so worried about the Dolphins
trading.
Yeah, because the Dolphins could come to Mike Brown with the whole family of first-round picks this year and next year. And Brown's stingy, so probably wouldn't even do the deal. If he didn't do that Ricky Williams deal, he probably ain't going to do that deal.
Right.
So, but the Redskins absolutely need a lot of positions, just like we do. I wouldn't. That's the other question I have for you that we went through last week. Is that has your thoughts on that changed at all? Do you feel as though if Dolphins came with all of their first-round picks this year and then next year, would you pull that trigger?
I think I would. It's hard to say, bro, because a smart team would pull the trigger, and then like I know we don't really like Herbert like that, but I have a feeling that Herbert's going to be the second guy. A smart team will move back up and still get Herbert or whatever.
Mm-hmm. See, I don't think they got the resources and
but they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. They'll
go get hurt or something later on and drop. So they'll wait for it to fall to them, whatever it is.
We know their draft. Like Carson hit the nail on the head. Like the Bengals really low key just try to get lucky. Like they just hope that somebody's gonna like fall to them instead of being aggressive. It's like and then like if they don't fall there, then they just switch their draft plan to whatever option B was, and it's like. We saw that with it last year when it came to Devin Bush, and also in the second round when it came to Jawan Taylor. We've seen it when it came to Michael Thomas. Even though they still ended up with a good player in Tyler Boyd, it was said that they really wanted Michael Thomas but wouldn't trade up to get him with him being there. And
Michael Thomas and A.J. Green, can you imagine?
Wow, right,
exactly. and Pat Mahomes. All right, so let me switch subjects for you. Speaking of Devin Bush, this upcoming week, you have any thoughts on what we should expect from the Bengals versus the Steelers? I've been looking at a lot of different things, and hats off to them. T.J. Watt absolutely is wrecking the NFL right now, and I'm one of the guys that hasn't been as big on him, and I think a lot of it's a lot of media hype, but the numbers are there. Devin Bush's numbers are slowly kind of going down a little bit, but the impact is there. I watched a couple plays from him last week against the Browns where he's tracking the football like all the way across the field, like making the plays that, I mean, just that one guy would have that. That is an instance where I'm feeling like, okay, I can see how Chase Young could impact the game so heavily that would probably equate to maybe a win or two this year versus our whole quarterback argument, because Devin Bush made some unreal plays that I saw last week. They still lost the game, but just teams are not allowed to go across the middle of the field anymore. T.J. Watt is leading the league in quarterback hits. He's like second in sacks. I think he's got like 10.5. He's got 5 forced fumbles. I mean, he's absolutely wrecking this year. The Bengals don't have any weapons active besides Tyler Boyd that I can see that would probably make any bit of an impact, because the defensive front with the Steelers is absolutely still all fully intact. They're going to cry and tell us that they're injured and they got these guys that we never even heard of, or Benny Snells of the world, that are injured, but they're all on offense. Their defense is at 100%.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's funny because the last time we had our first episode and we had Tony Serino from the Locked On Steelers podcast, one thing that I said, like, even before that game, was that their defense looked better. And I was saying on that show, like, the Steelers' defense is legit. Like, it's really improved with the trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick, which at the time I still thought that wasn't a good trade for them just from what they gave up in terms of value, right? But obviously that's kind of turned around because they've started to win, and that draft pick starts to move up. I think right now it's at like the number 16 position when we were talking last week. But that defense, man, I mean, that's one thing that I will give them credit for. You kind of talked about Devin Bush, but the inserts of Devin Bush as well as Minkah Fitzpatrick have totally, changed this defense. And they are a very tough defense, and they could literally win this game based off of that defense. So that's one thing that I think that we have to worry about. I think, like you said, yes, there were key injuries that they've had on offense, but to me, the Steelers have, in a sense, returned to what their original identity was, at least when I became a fan, which was having this very strong defense and trying to establish a running game. They were more of a defensive team, and it seems like they're morphing back into that, and especially with these losses that they're going to have on the offensive side of the ball, I think we'll see that, right? And I think that bodes very bad for a young quarterback in Ryan Finley. He's going through a lot of tough defenses, obviously with the Ravens the other week. The Raiders weren't as bad, but they still gave up about 4 sacks, as you said. T.J. Watt is probably licking his chops there. They also have a strong defensive line, strong secondary. So for some reason, I just fear that there's going to be like a Minkah Fitzpatrick interception involved here where Ryan Finley is going to go deep and Minkah's just going to pick him off. But I think that defense is what we really need to be worried about from an offensive standpoint. If this defense, I think our defense is really going to set the tone once again like they did against the Raiders, right? So I think that will be very important. I think James Conner probably misses this game. I know he has a shoulder injury. And Juju, I think, is going to be out as well. But I still feel like there's a guy like Vince McDonald that they could use in a significant role. And like you said, Vanette, I think that they try to attack the middle of the field that way. I honestly think Mason Rudolph is going to help us out because he's shown that he has the ability to turn the ball over. I honestly think that they would actually low-key have a better chance if they played the guy behind Mason Rudolph against us. So I think that bodes for making this a tight game. Now, if they blow us out, I'm really going to look at myself like we are the worst team in the league. Like this team, from a offensive standpoint, they're super depleted, and if they blow us out from putting up points, that would be ridiculous. But I really don't see that with our defense kind of bouncing back last week. But what are your thoughts, Zim?
My bold prediction is that they're going to come with trick plays. I honestly think so. When you're in desperation mode like that, you're going to see it's going to be. I wouldn't even say last time that we played them was trick plays, but you see a lot of like high school like shovel passes and different intricate like different things. And credit to them and credit to their coordinator for getting that right, and then Lou Anarumu and not having the resources to really do anything about it, but attacking the middle of the defense, attacking them with these little short passes. Because like I tell people a couple weeks ago, whatever, Mason Rudolph reminds me of Andy Dalton in a lot of different ways. Now he doesn't have the ability to throw downfield as well, but his finicky, shaky like feet and just the one read take off and get sacked type of things. Like I saw that all over that Browns game. And I'm gonna tell you, what's the guy, Villanueva or something, like the lineman for the Steelers, whatever, had the worst game of his career against Myles Garrett. And that's the thing that I was saying last week that I was so upset about is like everybody focused on the end of the game, and I didn't even watch the last 30 seconds. I only saw highlights of it because the game was like over. They were thoroughly like manhandled, like in the trenches, and that's something you normally don't see from the Steelers. And I'm gonna tell you, last week Andrew Billings and Josh Tupou had their way. So I don't see any difference with that. I think that's going to be the biggest difference of this game versus the last time. But I do look for the Steelers in desperation mode to like crank up like some trick plays. You might even see like a reverse on a return. Remember I told y'all this, like they have to resort to that, because if y'all thought that the Bengals offense was bad, this offense is probably just as bad or not. They were bad. They were worse with Juju and Deontay Johnson and all these guys there. So imagine them without it. I don't even know what they could come out there with. I don't feel like they're going to be able to run the ball that well. I just think they're going to have to resort to that type of stuff. Now, from the other side of things, this is a nightmare matchup for Ryan Finley. Not only is it very, very – one thing that I've noticed when I went back and watched the tape from last week's game is Ryan Finley absolutely probably doesn't even have an NFL arm. And I was very, very big on him, like in clutch moments, the 3rd and 19 play, him scrambling on a couple different drives. I really, really like what he did because it showed the clutch gene and it gave you a glimpse of what would happen if you got a semi-mobile quarterback or a quarterback with some awareness. But the throwing, he cannot throw to the outside hashes. Teams are going to zero in on that. When you couple that with the fact that your number one target in the last couple of weeks, who has been on the tape, isn't going to play, you now have Tyler Boyd that's going to get blanketed, double coverage. Who is he going to throw it to? So then I'm thinking like, okay, even if they were down by 2 touchdowns, they got to just start running the ball, because there's no way. Even if and people say, well, if Cordy Glenn plays, then Cordy Glenn hasn't played the whole entire season. To have him come in there and think that he's going to hold his own, that's a tall task. Will he do better than John Jerry? Perhaps. But this pass rush coming to town is probably top 3 in the NFL. So that, coupled with the fact that he can't throw it deep anyway, he can't go outside hashes, it's a formula. Like 3rd downs last week, I mean, the Raiders were just dialing it up. Crosby didn't hesitate for 1 second. When teams know that they're not going to run, they go insane on this line. Bobby Hart, I'm told Billy Price is probably going to get benched this week. He had his worst game of the season last week, according to PFF. So there, from an offensive line standpoint, if Zach wants Ryan Finley to walk out of there with 2 legs, he probably has to play Cordy Glenn. But to me, I don't think that's a tall task for a guy. And the formula for success to win this game will have to be through special teams, defensive play, and field position. Boswell, I cannot stand that guy. He hits everything. I don't think he's ever missed a field goal when he's played the Bengals, ever. He's only missed 2 field goals this year, and he missed a really key one last week. But if it's a close game and it's a field position game, like Boswell, he's going to nail it. He's going to hit. He's going to win. That guy gives me nightmares. I can't stand him. Aside from that, I just think like Bengals have to just play the field position game. Both offenses will look terrible. Trick, gimmicky plays coming from the Steelers. Steelers still win. I'm thinking 14-9, something like that. Something weird. Like a 14-9 might get 3 Bullock field goals, something like that. But at the end of the day, if we do lose, that is a win.
Right, exactly. Just to shift gears, I got 2 topics that one announcement and then a second thing that I want to talk about just to piggyback off of that. But per James Creppa, the Bengals' Duke Tobin was in Oregon last week to see Herbert throw 333 yards and 4 touchdowns against Arizona. This is why we tell you people, I know we all, personally, I'm on a Joe Burrow train as well, but you have to keep your mind open that the Bengals could be looking at Justin Herbert. I honestly believe, I think this is the second game this college season that Duke Tobin has attended 2 of Herbert's games this season. So just keep that in mind. He only went to 1 for Tua, so you guys know I'm a Tua guy, so I'm not just saying that just to say it. But he didn't go to any of Tua's games until they played LSU, so he could have been there for also Joe Burrow and not Tua. So just throwing that out there. So just keep that in the back of your minds before you think of any other possibilities or before you write Justin Herbert off. The second thing that I want to say is, Zim, let me ask you this question. If Ryan Finley goes out there and struggles, let's just say hypothetically Ryan Finley goes out and throws 3 interceptions in the first half, would you put Jake Delgado in the game? And
no.
Do you think that he deserves to at least get three games to see? Because I think after if Ryan Finley comes out this game, right, and he struggles, why not go and put in Jake Delgado?
Because, all right, so it's a 2-part question. The first part is no, because Jake Delgado has no reps with the current team. He's not been involved with the game plan on a week-to-week basis. You know how when you see a team and you say, okay, he went full practice all week, and that's how we determine if they're going to play, like A.J. Green, if he were to practice on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then, clearing all that stuff, then you say, okay, yeah, they're in the loop on the game plan. They've got the reps with the first team, different things like that. Jake Delgado currently right now has no reps. So to ask him to come in an injured, like say Ryan Finley gets injured or throws interceptions, he's not ready. He doesn't have the game plan. Now, if Ryan Finley throws 3 interceptions and then the game is over and he makes it through the game, and then they come out and say, yeah, we're going to bench Ryan Finley, and then you give Jake Delgado a week to prepare, I like that. But having him thrust into the lineup, no. I think if you see him go down, interceptions, anything like that, it's absolutely going to be Andy Dalton that comes back into the game. And Andy Dalton was the one that was warming up last week.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that.
When Ryan Finley was limping, it was Andy Dalton that was warming up.
Right, and Jake Delgado, just for those paying attention and listening, he was actually inactive last week. So I think that kind of gave us a clue to where their mindset was in terms of him. But, man, just seeing that flat arm, which like we said, man, this is why we tell you guys that Ryan Finley isn't the answer. It's not because we're trying to be stubborn and, stick our heels in the ground on just wanting a quarterback. We don't just want any quarterback, right? We're going to give you a realistic evaluation of these guys from top to bottom. We're not just going to push our own agendas or our own narratives on that. So we told you guys weeks ago, before Ryan Finley even took a snap for under center, that he wasn't the guy. We gave you the concrete reasons on why he wasn't the guy. It all checks out, and that's why you tune in here to the Orange is the New Black podcast, because we're fans just like you, but we're going to also give you that perspective and that realism that you need to see and hear. And I even have friends of mine that follow our podcast that aren't even Bengals fans, period, and they say that it's refreshing to hear a realistic perspective from Zim and myself when it comes to these issues, because we don't give you biased opinions or overinflate or inflate our players and their values and things of that nature. We're going to give you some real talk when it comes to the Bengals.
If you guys don't follow Ace, please make sure you check him out on New Stripe City on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Zim_Hude on Instagram. I do have one quick thought though. I just wanted to tell you. Mm-hmm. With Justin Herbert, these are my 3 quick assessments with these quarterbacks: the Tua, the Burrow, and Justin Herbert. Now, Burrow is my guy that I'm rooting more so for, is because from a cultural standpoint and an attitude standpoint and awareness standpoint and what I call scrambling from the front office, he has all of those intangibles. That is very, very key. Aaron Rodgers is the king of scrambling from the front office. They won't do anything that's going to make them a mega team or anything like that, but he scrambles from the front office every week. He calls his own shots. Baker Mayfield will one day be in that position as well, too, where the organization looks stupid if they don't pay him exactly what he says. You get a blank check, and as a result, the quarterback takes control of the team, and that's how you scramble from the front office. That is the main hope that I want from Joe Burrow, and it's more so and along with his field play. So people have to take a look at that. Justin Herbert, right, is a systematic quarterback that's going to be – I'm not going to say he's Andy Dalton because his arm strength, the upside on Justin Herbert is probably higher than Burrow and Tua. But the problem that I have with Herbert is that he's the personality, the characteristics of what he does and what he plays in, it's always going to be that he's a quieter guy, he's more soft-spoken. He's always going to lean towards, like, what the Andy Dalton thing is. Like, he's not going to demand anything. Right. And see, Joe Burrow is like Joe Namath. If you're an older listener right now, Joe Burrow is Joe Namath, 2019. He's riding around. Who do you know got the offensive lineman carrying him, hoisting him up after a game that's not a national championship? He's calling the shots. He's wearing shades, and a lot of people run from that type of stuff, but he backs it up with his play. That attitude, that bravado is what could carry the culture forward, get free agents here, all these different things. So smarten up, people. You have to think about our situation versus somebody else. Justin Herbert going to the Patriots to be the heir apparent for Tom Brady would be Super Bowls. But Justin Herbert for the Bengals, to me, doesn't equate to that. He needs to have an offensive line in place. Everything needs to be in place. And although he is somewhat more mobile than what I thought he was, the mentality and the attitude won't change the culture. Tua, I don't trust the Bengals front. I don't trust their medical staff to do a proper assessment on him to even see is the hip correct. Say he falls down to 3-4 and we're there, and they go pick Tua or whatever. I don't even trust their medical staff to even go get him at this point. Right. Like, and that's where I drew the line with Tua. For me, all this time, it could have been Tua or Burrow. But if the Bengals were to get Tua and it was easy, I would say, yep, something's wrong with him. Because every time that we go get somebody like a Jonah or somebody, and it feels like they fall into our lap type of deal, with the exception of like William Jackson and like Tyler Eifert, it always ends up in an injury is because the other teams are doing a correct medical. And if Tua were to get to like 3-4 and that's where we're at and we drafted Tua, I would like Tua, but I just don't see it. Like, I don't trust their medical. I don't trust their front office. If Joe Burrow if you're a fan of Ocho Cinco like I am or whatever, Joe Burrow is the quarterback Ocho Cinco. Now, maybe not as animated or whatever, but it's a cultural thing and it's backed up by gameplay. So if you're listening to this, don't just look at just on the field play and a lot of people that follow college teams that like their favorite team, whatever, like a guy has hit me today, like, what about Jake Fromm? Like, he's a bum. But I'm just saying, like, don't let your college collegiate bias tie into this. This with me and Ace, I don't watch college football unless it's dealing with quarterback play or just looking at guys before the draft. Also, hey, Ace, we need to go to the draft. I'm doing this live on air. I never asked Ace this. Bro, you have to meet me. We got to go to the draft. I'm going with a Joe Burrow jersey. We're going to talk about that off air. Do you have any thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah. I want to touch on a couple of things in closing here. So, number one, definitely want to try to make that happen for us to do something for the draft. If you guys have any ideas or anything that you guys have for us, please let us know when it comes to that. Second thing I want to say,
Vegas, let's go. High rollers.
Vegas, it's going to be lit.
Roll the dice.
It's going to be lit. The one thing I want to touch on, too, is you kind of talked about Tua's injury. If you guys haven't checked him out, our last guest that we had on our last podcast was Flimlo Raps. He actually released a video about Tua's health concerns and his injury and the real possibilities of where this injury is. So just for those who haven't had a chance to check that out, basically what he's saying is as of now, even though Tua has had the surgery, there still isn't a guarantee that he's going to recover from it because they have to see if the blood is actually going to flow to the hip, which is, if you remember Bo Jackson, right, in The Curse of the Bengals, he had a hip injury that was exactly the same one that Tua has now. and he was not able to get that blood flow back to the hip area. So, as you guys know, that ended his career. Now, medicine and things of that nature have advanced, obviously, from the 90s until now, but that's still something to keep in mind. So I think if you do take Tua, you're redshirting him that first year. It's almost like he's not going to play. In my opinion, you probably shouldn't play him at all next season, because you have to remember there's some overlap. And Flem also talked about the fact that, that's a 1-year injury, like 1 year from when it happened, right? So we're talking about that happened last week. So you're talking about we could be into week 11 next year in the NFL season. That's a flush. He's not he's not playing from my understanding of the research that he's found and everything like that. So that is one way to kind of look at it, because I've heard a lot of Bengals fans say, hey, well, why don't we just, take Tua? And you guys know I'm the biggest Tua fan. I wouldn't be opposed to taking him and sitting for a year, but I want to be better next year, at least like 8-8, 7-9, something like that. Show me some progress. So I'm not sure if Tua would help align with what we want. Now, if we're willing to be patient and wait, then maybe, right? But I think just off of these past 3 seasons and this season, I don't think that we want to go into a 4th losing season again, right? But that's all I wanted to say about that. But in closing here, then was there anything that you wanted to say before we get out of here?
No, I really don't. I hope everybody's having a great week. We're going to have a good game regardless. I think this is the best I probably feel going into a Pittsburgh game in a long time, because no matter what, I feel like I'm a winner. Right. I'm going to win. I'm going to win with this pick, or I'm going to beat them, and I'm going to knock them out of the playoffs. So either way, this is going to be a good weekend for us. Everybody keep an eye on the Redskins every week. That's the number one team that we need to be looking at, because if Haskins looks terrible, we are in trouble, I feel like. I think they own the tiebreaker. If anybody thinks that is incorrect, because I've asked 2 people that I really trust, and they say, yeah, Redskins own the tiebreaker on it. So if that's incorrect, please let us know in the comments. Please make sure that you keep on checking us out every couple of days on here, Cincy Jungle, SB Nation. Make sure you check out all of our other shows that we're in cahoots with here on Cincy Jungle as well. We got some really good stuff with Matt Minich, who does some really good breakdowns. There's some really good content out there. Also, finally, make sure you follow Ace on New Stripe City on Twitter, Instagram. Follow me, Zim_Hude. On Sundays, I do a live stream. We will do it this Sunday as well on Instagram, where you can come in there, talk your stuff. It doesn't cost anything, of course, and everybody just comes in there, and you can comment and kind of meet and fellowship with other Bengals fans, and that's all I got to say. Who dey?
Yeah, who dey? We'll see you guys next week.
See you.